Hello everyone, and today we have our special and first interview of the MadMen, and it is about the seasonal and it is about the two players that qualified for the seasonal. We're talking of course about MisterBear on Southeast Asia and Pespscola on EU. How are you doing, guys?
Yeah, doing good.
Are you feeling any special, guys, now that you qualified for the seasonal? I think for Mr. Bear is already the second time, but how about you, Pesps?
Um, Not really. Next last time I went for one, like it was really close, and in the end, it's like you need to have that extra luck to go undefeated. So, I felt proud of my performance, but not necessarily too too different from the last one.
All right. How about you, Mr. Bear? Since this wasn't your first rodeo, was something special happening in this one? Is there any honorable thing you want to tell people about?
I mean, this time it's kind of a bit different from the last time because the last time I 2-1 every round in my Swiss, but this time I 2-0 every round. So it feels really good to just win every game in a very clean manner. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the top cut again. Hopefully, I'll do better this time round.
So what you're telling us, you're going to 2-0 everyone in Top Cut as well, or this is how it looks like.
That's what I hope I'll be able to do. But yeah,
How about you, Pesp? Did you go to 0 as well, or was there any hiccup along the way?
Yeah. So the only time people didn't try to counter my lineup was the one time I actually lost full the game, which I was pretty proud of that. I gotta say, like just losing one game was definitely very rewarding.
I mean, you lost that game, so you don't fall under the perfect score in that Swiss into losing round one. And we do hope that the casters are going to bless you as well, Mr. Bear, and you don't fall to that curse as well. But let's talk less about that and let's talk about what actually people wanna hear and your lineups. And as you can see on the screen, we're going to start with Mr. Bear's Nightfall Aggro. Can you tell people why did you bring this deck in the first place?
we came out with this idea like 5 minutes before check-in ended, and with me and a bunch of friends, we tested this lineup like 4 a.m. the night before, and it did really, really well into like what I was expecting to be played. So I just decided to bring it because I feel comfortable piloting it, and yeah, yeah. So I just brought it, and it did well. It won every game. Like it went 5-0, which wasn't really what I expected, but yeah, it did its job well.
Is there anything special about this particular version that you tested with the friends and then piloted it in seasonals?
No, I mean I just asked Diner for it because like Diner he won the DOR EU with this Nightfall list, I think. So I just net decked it off him, and yeah, just played around with it a bunch, and it did well. So yeah.
Right. Do you recommend this list for ladder for people, or do you think it's strictly a tournament list that you prepared to counter the meta?
I think it's a viable deck in on ladder as well. It kind of does well into things like Fist DF and other aggros. So I mean, there's definitely gonna be a whole bunch of aggro on the ladder, and this deck would do really well into all the aggro. Yeah, so I would recommend this deck for you guys to try out.
Well, it beats TF, it beats other type of aggro. You've heard it right here. So it is recommended and tested and proven by Mr. Bear. So just go for it, I guess. And the second deck that you have brought has been Shen Fiora. What was the reason behind bringing Shen Fiora? Because I think we expected a lot of people to bring this.
Like Shen Fiora is just one of my most comfortable decks. Like from last seasonals, I brought this exact same list, and it did well as well. So like throughout the past 2 months, I've been playing this deck, and it has still done well for me. So I really like this deck, and I love like how this deck wins, and the many different ways like you can win through this deck. And yeah, so I just brought it so because like it's one of my most comfortable decks to pilot.
Right, looking at this list, I sense something interesting because you play one copy of Laurent Chevalier, one copy of Tiana Crownguard, and one copy of Relentless Pursuit. What's the reasoning behind that? Because we have seen this kind of text before in the Shenfiora, but people are curious. Why are there?
For Chevalier, is just to ensure like you can get more units like if you draw it, because like there's a tendency to break units because like you do run many spells in Shenfiora. And for Tiana is just like a better pursuit because like you don't want to run two relentless pursuits because sometimes you draw both of it and your hand becomes really weird and really hard to play. Whereas Crown Guard, you can just slam it down on it. It's a 8/8 body with stuff, and it also grants you rally, which is really good.
And what is your opinion, Pes, on this list? Especially because I know you guys with Portugal played one copy of Laurent Chevalier in EU Masters.
Yeah, like generally this is a very standard list. I really like the Chevalier. Like how MisterBear said, is like the most common break in Shenfiora is just spell heavy hands, and Chevalier really unbricks those hands. Like if you have a full spell hand, you will be able to protect him, and the 2 HP is not like a huge liability. Just it's a really good tech in my opinion. Like I've been playing the one of Laurent like for so much time. The thing, like how MisterBear said, I think he didn't really specify it. But I think what he meant when drawing two Relentless Pursuits is like drawing it off River Shaper, right? Like Tiana Crownguard is a Relentless Pursuit that doesn't get drawn by River Shaper, which it's pretty huge. Laurent River Shaper is there to put you ahead and not as a finisher, and that's really important. Like to not draw too many pursuits out of him. It can lose you some games, so I really like the Tiana instead of the second Relentless for sure.
Nice. Any additions to what Pes said or any comments on that, Mr. Bear?
He said was quite, and yeah, that's what I wanted to say, but I couldn't explain it well enough.
Well, it's good to have a Shenfiora body like Pespscola here and there, so it can explain what you naturally do and how you naturally play. And last but not least, your last deck was Aphelios Lee. I think we expected any form of Aphelios at some point in a lineup. So then again, what is the reasoning behind bringing Aphelios Lee?
Aphelios Lee is just another one of my comfort picks. Because like ever since Aphelios came out, like Aphelios is just really broken together with his weapons, and like pairing it with Lee makes like the deck like has really good matchups into aggro as well, whereas like it suffered against aggro back when it was paired with Zoe. So it's just a very well-rounded deck overall. And I mean, I had high hopes of drawing Lee during the seasonal, so I just played it. Yeah.
And what are the techs in this list? Right, looking at it, I see 2 copies of Sonic Wave, I see 2 copies of Gift from Beyond. I think Sonic Wave and Gifts from Beyond are not something people usually play in their standard lists.
I think Sonic Wave is becoming more common in like all the Lee lists because like there's many TF decks going around, and TF is really strong, and you want to get rid of TF as soon as possible. So you want to play Sonic Waves just so that you can get rid of the Twisted Fate. And for the Gift of Beyond, like it's just the weapons are OP lah, so you just play it.
Yeah, you just get the weapons that you want, but also 2 copies of super cool Star Chart. What is the reasoning behind that?
For the star chart, it's just for situational use because like star chart gives you cards like Equinox, or you can also get cards like Moon Glow or Messenger just for more value. And these cards are situationally really good as for certain types of matchups. So it's just like in general, sometimes you need it. So I just put in 2 copies to make it better into a larger variety of matchups.
Does it feel like you have a Zoe but not really? Because I think Zoe usually doesn't leave, and when it gets to leave it's overpowered, but I think it can still get you at least 2 super cool star charts.
Like, you don't have Zoe, but you still can play Star Chart, and the value of Star Chart can still be used really well in the deck.
What are your opinions, Pes, on this list? Because from what I know, Aphelios, Lee, Zoe Lee, everything combo or control is your territory as well.
Yeah, I will just say I don't really like cutting down on Pel Cascades. I think the best, like, you need to go at least 8 cycle cards. Like, I like 2 deep met, 3 pels, 3 guidings, or 3 deep mets, 2 pels, 3 guidings, just because like finding Lee is really the biggest weakness of this deck. Just having that cycle is really nice. Super Cool can count as cycle, but it's not reliable enough when you need it. So yeah, I will just say I don't like not running triple pale or just in general 8 draw cards. Besides that, yeah, I think Lee was one of the best meta calls. I brought it as well. We can look at the list. I think it's just super good in the current meta.
Yeah, definitely.
Tournament meta, not every meta.
Not every meta. And speaking of your decks, we're not going to talk about Aphelios Lee, just actually Zoe Lee just yet, but we're going to talk about your first deck, which was the Atrocity Invoke, something that has been around for some time now. Then again, what is the reasoning behind bringing Aphelios Diana of Atrocity?
So I played a lot of versions of this deck. I played just standard Jordan Invoke. That's what we call in MadMen, is just what am I's version of like Sky's Ascent to Atros. I played the deck a lot before Aphelios came out. Then Aphelios came out, I started trying the deck and it felt like pretty okay. I was just really like, I felt like the deck could be better into Anivia decks and just control decks in general. And then like KitKat talked about Veiled Temple. I put Veiled Temple. I started playing the deck more, and I realized the more I played it with Temple, like you can just go aggro on them. Like you don't need to play for the outgrind matchup. Like you don't need Eclipse Dragon, which was like a 2-off before. You just want cheap invokes and just out tempo the opponent. That's why I like triple Atro in this deck instead of 2 Atros, 2 Sky's Descent. That was the main purpose. Then I have the Diana, which surprisingly enough actually kind of flips sometimes. Like it's actually impressive how often she flips. I have 11 Nightfall cards if I'm not mistaken, or 12. I think it's 12. I counted the other day. So yeah, like Diana can actually, in this version of the deck with the Aphelios, can actually be stronger than the old Zoe Diana, which Zoe Diana before, like Diana just used to be a 2-mana removal, and she wasn't more than that. With this version, because I also play Lunari Priestess for the early game, like Diana flips actually pretty consistently. Then I was playing Goat before as well, and then after trying Sky Shadows, also like a little bit looking at what am I was doing. Sky Shadows is so good. Like, one of the reasons why this deck is actually good into aggro is just because you can out tempo them, right? Like you put Aphelios down, you do Crescendum, you play some card and then you have another gun like all in the same turn. It's like, and if you have Temple down, you can do so much in one turn if you have Aphelios as well. Like it's just such a good deck. In my opinion, it's like, I think it's the deck I'm most proud of that I created. It's actually really good. Like it was really surprising how well this deck functions. I'm really proud of the build. I was playing super cool star chart, but then Kuvira and Fresh Lobster like talked me into playing Spellsieve, which is a super consistent or super versatile card in almost every matchup. Like it's really easy to find a use for a one-off Spellsieve, and just Sunburst is not like, so Lee can't be developed on turn 5 easily, right? So they need to rethink if it's worth it to play Lee on 5 or if it's not, which is sometimes kind of huge because your units are so small. Lee will be good at stabilizing for sure. So yeah, the one-off Sunburst is for there, and like the general game plan is just out-tempo your opponent with Veil Tempo. Like Veil Tempo, you lose tempo on 4, and then you can do so many plays on 5 that is like you already gained tempo on turn 5. Is actually like really impressive how this deck did generally.
And right before I'm going to ask Mr. Bear his opinion, I am curious how champion heavy, how important it is to draw your champions in this deck.
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't understand that. So it depends on the matchup. Like this deck really struggles removing champions like Zoe and TF. So in those matchups, like throwing Diana is quite important because she's that cheap removal. Aphelios is, your EV increases so high, like so much when you draw Aphelios. Like Aphelios is a core piece in this matchup, in this deck for sure. You don't need him to win, but he really helps like a lot. He was really good at stabilizing, really good at controlling the board, really good at cycling Veil Temple, like just using Veil Temple. It's just really good cards in this deck for sure.
Nice. And how about you, Mr. Bear? Did you get to play any version of Aphelios Invoke with Atrocity, something similar? Do you have any opinions on the deck?
Yeah, I tried Aphelios Diana, but not with Atrocity. I paired it with Bilgewater, and I think overall the deck is generally very good. Like you have, you can actually just like what Pep say, you just out tempo your opponent really easily once you get tempo down, and you have a bunch of invokes, and those invokes cards are like really good. So overall the deck is just good. Like I might not have ran Atrocity, but like I feel like sometimes you don't even need the Atrocity to win, and you just win through out tempoing your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And did you run Diana in your version just to have a second challenger besides Boxtopus? Since you ran it with Bilgewater, I suppose you ran Boxtopus as well.
Just ran Diana as an alternate form of removal for Twisted Fate. Yeah.
Alright, so your version was specifically targeted to target Twisted Fate. Alright.
Yeah, I will just say them like a lot of people were running this version with Boxtopus. The main reason for some people was like there's so much aggro running around that Boxtopus is pretty decent. Sky Shadows is as good as Boxtopus against aggro, just because their threats, like they don't win by making one threat, they're winning by making a lot of threats. So just being able to generate a lot of guns in one turn is pretty big. And Atro, I just like Atro because like against Aphelios decks, a lot of the times, or in Targon mirrors, the matchup feels very stalematey, and just having that fast speed, I can kill you, can be really big, right? Like you can always like if you develop into Targon, they can punish you with invokes, but if they just open, it's like if they kill you on open, they don't need to worry about anything, right? And Atro just doesn't allow the opponent to press OK into open attack, right? And that's like something I really value, especially when you're playing Mono Targon, because it's a deck with clear flaws. It doesn't have fast speed removal. It doesn't have like development punishers outside of the invoke. So if your opponent has the read on your hand, like there's nothing you can do. It's just like Outro just allows you to do certain plays, which is really good, and also allows you to like develop a charge and an outro in the same turn, which is like a big turn against aggro. If you're against aggro, you start shaping one time, then you get the mana back with Veil Temple, and next turn you play Charger, attack them in the face, and then outro like in the same turn. Is like it happens sometimes, which is something I really value for sure.
Yeah, and we all know that Targon mirrors usually tend to become a staring contest in which everyone has Veil Temple, has a big Twisted Fate, a big Aphelios or whatever, but neither of them cannot attack because there are hashes, there are counters, there are stuns with Twisted Fate and everything, so there's not much happening in that. So having the option of Atrocity to finish people off sounds nice. And with that, we're going to move to your second deck, which is not a Trusty Invoke, but it is Fizz TF. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess you can tell it's an Atrocity Invoke. It has the same power level. It's like you have a Lidros with Atrocity, but instead you just have a lot of Burble Fishes aligned.
Yeah, this is more busted than a Ledros, like Temple, whatever. Like this deck, man, this deck is too strong. We were debating a lot, like me, Kuvir, and Govardia, and like the other guys from the practice group that we created for the seasonal. Like we were all talking, man, do we bring this deck? Everyone is trying to counter. Like people are bringing triple aggro. It will just be hard to win games when people try to target this. I don't regret bringing this deck one bit. I faced 4 lineups that didn't ban this deck, and in these 4 games I won 2-0. Like this deck is too strong. There was one game where I needed to high roll my opponent. Besides that, every game just felt like they didn't draw the right cards at the right time, which will happen because your opponent, you have so many threats with this deck. You're drawing in your entire deck. You have Burbles running around. You have triple TF running around because you draw so much. You're so likely to draw the second one, right? So you have so many cards coming through, and your opponent needs to find the answers with 1 or 2 cards drawn per turn, right? So if they Pale Cascade, then they need a single out of that Pale Cascade, or they need like double Pale Cascade in hand, like double single. That's what I meant. Like it's just this deck has so much access to the deck that people trying to counter them will not always have the exact answer, right? Because you have so many threats. So yeah, like it was super consistent deck. I teched 2 Butchers as an aggro tech. The main reason is just like the 3/3 body against aggro can matter a lot. Aggro is a region, it's a archetype that's not only about smarking the opponent, it's about out-tempoing in the first turns. And just having a butcher, access to a butcher can be really nice. Like MF can't attack anymore. Saboteur will like down trade with it. Just it's such a good body. Generally, if you get the plunder off, and if you don't, it's just a 1-drop, which is really important to have against aggro. Then I also cut 1 Zap for 1 Zonite. Similar reasons. Makes stress testing more consistent. Zap, a lot of the times it's just a discard. She's an understated unit for her price. Her elusive tech can be nice, but generally she's just overpriced for what she does. And a lot of the times it's just too expensive for your turn. You just want to combo your opponent with like pick a card, Romage into Syrup, Poro Cannon, like all the combos, and Zap just becomes sometimes a little bit too expensive. That's why I cut 1 Zap for 1 Zonite, and just playing 5 burn spells just to have that removal. That can go a long way. Yeah, basically.
I wanted to ask you what are the decks in this deck, but you got ahead of me and just explained everything. So thank you for that. And I wanna stop on one of the statements that you said in the beginning, that you draw so much, that you have so many threats online. We said at some point, I think, joking but not really, but this deck actually lets you play with the whole deck. Like, you have that cycle power that you actually play with the whole deck, not
Yeah.
just with the cards you're dealt with.
Yeah, a lot of the times, like, I actually already lost 2 times by deck out with this deck. Like, I was super ahead, and I needed to worry more about me decking out than my opponent dying. Like, it was, yeah, the biggest problem I had a lot of the times. It didn't happen in Seasonal. In Seasonal, this deck just performed really well. But yeah, it happens sometimes. Sometimes you just mill yourself at this deck. That's how much throw it has. And yeah.
Mr. Bear, did you consider at any point bringing FTF yourself?
It was supposed to be in my lineup, but I swapped it out for Night 4 last minute. Because like I wasn't very confident with it. Like I know it's like really, really OP. Like this deck is really, really good. Like it's just one of the best decks right now in the meta. Like in ladder meta, tournament meta, whatever meta, like this deck is just really strong. But like I just wasn't really confident in piloting it, so I just didn't bring it in the end. But yeah, I would recommend people to play it for sure.
Do you think that this deck is going to lose from power, Mr. Bear, once the new Shurima cards are going to come in? Let's see a hot take or a prediction from you.
I think if there are no nerfs to this deck, I think it will still remain as one of the best decks. Like definitely tier 1 for sure.
Yeah. From what we've seen from Shurima, there's like not a lot of interaction. It's like a little bit like the Masya. Like they just have the vulnerable cards, but they don't have anything else. They just, yeah.
Maybe the vulnerable cards are going to add to better trading for them into this deck. Like you add vulnerable to a lot of elusives, then you just trade into every single elusive, so they don't have time to threaten you. Maybe.
Renekton, yeah, I guess Renekton could be nice because he also pushes overwhelm damage, but man, I don't think, like, from the cards we've seen, like Exhaust, like, I don't know if it will be enough to counter this deck.
We still
There's
have
also many more cards. Yeah, there's still
Yeah.
many more cards that hasn't been revealed, so it's still too early to say how the outcome will be for this deck when Shurima comes.
So you say there is a hope, and I think everyone wants a hope and something new, because losing to an entire deck that can have the potential to draw everything and just frustrate you every single game is not really fun. So let's see what Shurima brings. But before what Shurima brings, let's see what Pesps has brought as his final deck, because his final deck was Lee Sin as well, but not Lee Sin Aphelios, it was Lee Sin Zoe.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, like I said it, I didn't actually mention it, but my main purpose with the lineup is just have 3 comfort picks first of all, and splitting the 3 best decks, like, in my lineup, right? So I didn't want to play Aphelios Zoe, just because Aphelios and Zoe are so busted right now, and just using them together, even though they synergize really well, feels like a little bit of a waste. So I didn't want to do that in my Invoke deck. I mean, I really felt like I don't need Zoe's value in the Temple deck. So this is why, one of the reasons why I decided on this deck. This deck does very good into control decks, so I wanted to take it more for aggro. That's why the triple Sparkle Fly. It felt like if you get a good Sparkle Fly off, if you can get like a Sparkle Fly to pop off, it's really hard them to come back. Like if you get Mentor into Sparkle Fly or just Gold a gem into Sparkle Fly, it can be really hard them to deal with it. And that's the main reason for triple Sparkle Fly. Then Gifts from Beyond is just, I think, a really good one-off in this deck. It's so versatile, the card, like, I don't think the cards are too busted, like MisterBear was saying. I think Aphelios is really strong, mostly because he generates those cards, and the cards are okay. But yeah, like if I would cut Gifts from Beyond, it would be for a Palm, and I just felt like Gifts from Beyond is just a better Palm. Like it can give you Overwhelm. If you don't have Zenith Blade, it can give you Lifesteal if like you have a flipped Lee Sin, you can just get 10 HP out of Severum, right? And it's the double spell proc, which can like be important as well. So yeah, I just felt like Griffiths from Beyond was a good one-off, just as a development punisher and as a flexible tool. Spell Thief, again, just super versatile, really good card. One Sonic Wave as removal, as MisterBear said, TF and Zoe are really good cards. You need kinda to remove them, or you lose sometimes. I wanted to ban TFS, so I didn't want to play it as a 2-off necessarily, but still as a 1-off, because I didn't really need to ban TF Aphelios with this deck, and it's like I have a small chance of winning without Lee if I play 1-off Sonic Wave, right? Usually I have to draw Lee either way in that matchup, and so it doesn't really matter if you have 2 or 3 Sonic Waves, but it can be good. Generally as to remove TF. And yeah, generally that's the list. Just tech for aggro, and it will still do fine into control.
I think in your initial list you were playing one copy of Super Cool Star Chart. What made you decide against it and switch it out?
I created this list with Kovira, then I switched to Super Cool for the tournament, and then like he said, dude, like Gifts from Beyond is so good, and I just okay, I will put it back in. I trust you, and yeah.